Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, new Eureka Police Chief Todd Jarvis joins us to talk about the future of Humboldt County's largest police department and how his experience in San Diego equips him to lead. Also, the Yurok Tribe held an event this past week highlighting the high number of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. They say you can judge a society by how it treats its children. You could also say that you can judge a society by how it treats its marginalized communities, and whether it even sees that marginalization as a problem. Let's be absolutely clear. Native American populations in this country are not children, but they are often disadvantaged in a number of ways, and despite the recent dynamism and success of tribes like the Yurok, who have become powerful in handling issues of importance to their community, society as a whole still often treats tribal members as outsiders or as somehow less than full citizens. One of the more visible and disgusting examples of this is the rash of missing and murdered Native women, and how the broader community reacts with much less outrage than would be the case if those missing were from white suburban homes and families. It's an injustice, certainly, but again, the Yurok Tribe has demonstrated leadership and vision by calling attention to this inequity and refusing to let this story wither on the vine. This week, leaders there held an event to call attention to the victims as well as the likely crimes that led to their disappearances. Tonight, we feature an interview with Eureka's new police chief to talk about policing and community here in the heart of Humboldt County. But we'll also later have a report from KEET contributor Ryan Hutson about these disappearances and how the Yurok Tribe is fighting to keep their names and stories in the news and hope alive. The tribe hosted a summit that included tribal leaders from up and down the state and nation, as well as legislators, law enforcement officials, academics, and others to examine the issue. But first, we're excited to have Chief Todd Jarvis. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
So one of the things I like to ask police officers, it's a unique calling to be a police officer. It requires a lot, and I think it needs people with high developed character. What made you come into this line of work?
Well, you're asking me to remember a long time ago. James. I'm actually a third-generation police officer.
Okay.
My father is a retired San Diego police officer and a sheriff from Idaho. My grandfather, after retiring from the Navy as an officer, got bored and became a harbor police officer in San Diego. So it's something that I had in my life, my whole upbringing. It's something that I was told by both of them you will not do when you reach the age. But once I did and started attending junior college in San Diego after I got out of high school, taking criminal justice classes, it's the only thing that really appealed to me. Yeah. And I've just had this desire to serve, and I think watching both of those role models and what they were able to accomplish in their careers, but more importantly than that, just having some interactions with people they had helped over the years and seeing the impact they made me want to pursue the same profession, not knowing that I'd be in it for this many years, or that I would have I've just been blessed with some of the opportunities I've had, and being here is certainly one of those.
So now, your broader career, were you mostly an officer, like a beat cop or a detective? How did your career develop?
I was really fortunate to work on a progressive, professional, large police department that had a lot of opportunity. Yeah. So I did a lot. I was a patrol cop. I started as a community service officer taking collision investigations, then went to the academy, became a patrol officer, worked downtown San Diego and Logan Heights, which is a very diverse neighborhood. Went on to be a motorcycle officer and supervisor for many years. Detective. After I was a lieutenant, I went back and worked narcotics task force, command of a very diverse inner city command. In fact, the command where I was a captain, there are more languages and dialects spoken at the high school within the borders of that command than any other school in California, at least I were at the time. So it's a very diverse immigrant, refugee, fueled community there. It was really fun to work in. And then from there, I went into the chief ranks. I was assistant chief over patrol operations, which is all of the 9 patrol divisions in the city. And from there, and where I retired the last 3.5 years, I was the executive assistant chief, which ran the daily operations of a department with 3,000 employees and volunteers. And as you can imagine, there was always something happening. Retired November of 2019, and I went from 160 miles an hour to 0 overnight, literally from being awakened multiple times a night to getting to sleep. And right after that, COVID hit. And right after that, the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota, which changed this profession. Within 8 minutes, one officer changed his profession, and my phone started blowing up with people like, Chief, you're so lucky to be retired, and great timing. And I've told people this before, but I felt exactly the opposite. I had 35 years of experience in how to deal with bringing communities together, how to deal with everything that was being faced by the profession. I was sitting on my couch watching it go down. So when this opportunity came up, I didn't really have to think too hard about it, even though I had been here one time. I'd been to Eureka one time in high school. I drove a U-Haul through it, moving my aunt to Cave Junction, Oregon, and I was just called to be here, and so glad that I have been. I rolled into town on New Year's Eve, and have been happily here ever since.
And you started soon after, right?
I started the 3rd of January.
Wow.
I came up with what was in my truck and rented a furnished house, and it's all good.
Instant home, right? Or whatever they. So, I mean, that's a lot of experience, and you come up to a department that, I mean, has less than 100 employees. I'm not exactly sure what the term. What is the current?
Much less than 100.
Much less than 100. Okay, but so. Describe that. I mean, is it challenging to come into a department that small and trying to figure out a different way of running things, or has that prepared you fully for what you're doing now?
Both.
Okay,
I had a really great career in San Diego, and I learned so much, and particularly those last 5 years at the chief rank, and dealing with the politics of the job, and dealing with the unions, and dealing with the employee issues, and all of that I got to experience there has come into play here already. I also am very cognizant of the fact that this is a small community, and you don't need big city policing here. And so I came in this with the mindset that there's some things that I know that I'm not going to be able to use here. But there are also some things identified already that I think will be a good fit here, and we're able to transition in. But the biggest thing I've noticed in the difference between big city policing and a smaller department is every police department has the same responsibilities, and there's a lot of unfunded mandates now that we're even more responsible for. But I don't have 3,000 people to turn to and say, you do this, you do that, you do that. Now we're saying, okay, you do these 5 things to many of our employees. So it's a great group of people here. They're so dedicated, and I really did, James, come up with the intention of this being an interim position. And even though I felt like I was at a point in my life where I wasn't being as beneficial as I could to the profession, there were parts of retirement that I was pretty happy with too.
Sure.
So I did think this is a way I can come get back for a while and get back to that. But quite frankly, once I got here, once I started meeting the people in this community, the people that I was working with on EPD, the city I work with, the people I work with within the city, I wasn't ready to walk away. It's a really cool environment. I like it up here. It's tough being away from my family.
Is all your family down in San Diego?
They're spread out all over, but I still have a son and grandkids in San Diego, which I miss seeing them. But everybody else is kind of spread out with military and other life adventures around the world.
So, I mean, you coming in, you've just recently been appointed, I think you said the 1st or the end of September, right?
Official first day as the chief was October 1st.
Okay, October 1st. Are you coming in reform-minded? Are there things that you've identified that you'd like to change now that you've got the reins, or do you like sort of the steady-as-she-goes approach at this point?
Well, that was my original intent when I came in as an interim chief. Before any change can be made, you need to build trust and build those relationships. So I really came in with that mindset that I was going to concentrate internally for a while and build those internal relationships, and then kind of push out to the community a little more. And I've found through my career, and I think it's sound leadership, that if you want to make change, you have to build those relationships first, and then people want to do what needs to be done. So immediately when I came in the door, I think everyone remembers what was happening in the history of the Eureka Police Department when I walked in, and the first task I was given was wrapping up the texting.
The texting investigation.
Investigation.
And just so for folks at home who aren't familiar, there were some 2 or 3 officers who had exchanged some texts that were deemed to be sort of abusive in nature toward some women, right? I mean,
there were a lot of issues with it, and there were things that that we had to take a hard look at. There was an independent investigation done. When I got here, I was handed that, and that investigation was done.
Well, that's a heck of a thing to hand the new guy, right?
Well, you know,
maybe it's good though, too.
I knew what I was walking into, and I knew that I had hundreds of experiences like that under my belt already. One of the 12 direct reports I had in San Diego was the captain over internal affairs, so I dealt with that daily. So I knew I had the experience to look at that, but it's never fun, and I never ever lose sight of the fact that these are human lives, these are people, these are families, these are a lot of people that are affected by this both inside and outside of the department.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we, you know, that was the first couple months of wrapping that up. Chief Hutson had already started that, recommended discipline, but we got through that process, and as a result of that, I saw a few things that we could tune up, and we're working on that. Immediately, we, within months of me being here, we initiated a misconduct reporting policy, and that's pretty much standard in the industry now. And that takes the heat off the individual officer. If you see me doing something that's a violation of policy, law, just not right, you're now required to report that up the chain of command instead of saying, hey, you know, James, I wish you wouldn't do that anymore, right? So it takes the heat off of the individual, but it also is the industry standard. So we've put that in place pretty quickly. We are going to be asking the City Council in a couple weeks to create a different rank structure within the department, and I want to add a layer in middle to upper management that has a little more opportunity to interact with the first level supervisors, the sergeants or watch commanders, have the ability to be more accessible to those supervisors, but also to coach, mentor, train, and
which are probably, I mean, those are kinds of positions that you filled for a lot of your career, right? I mean, like
I did. I worked every rank within the Department of San Diego, other than being the chief of police.
So yes, but they all were.
So there's a lot of value that I see in adding this extra layer, and I got to tell you, the city manager has been really pleasant to work with.
Okay, good.
I say this at great risk because of knock on wood, but he hasn't said no to me yet. You know, we've adjusted a few things, but he's been open to ideas, and I hope he's appreciated the different view I bring on things with that different type of experience. And I think we're doing some good things. I'm really excited about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed. Quite frankly, I would have said thanks for the 6 months. And
Now, one of the things that some people were concerned about is if the texting thing, if it demonstrated a flaw sort of in the culture of Eureka Police Department, or if it was just the result of a few bad apples. What's your verdict on that?
Well, I had some of the same fears, and I'm not even going to call the people that were involved bad apples. I think they made some bad decisions. But I don't want that to color their entire career or things they did accomplish, because I heard a lot of the positive as well. But I think they got caught up in a few things, and everyone's human, right? The profession's full of human beings, and we make mistakes. Some of them can be worked through, and some of them we can't. I have found, again, an incredibly dedicated, hardworking group of people, and I have absolutely not found that to be the culture. And we have made it clear that that cannot be the culture, and it won't be tolerated. And we try to work through that every day. Really. And the feedback I've had from the community has been very positive, and I don't get the feeling that the majority of the community, at least people that talk to me, feel that that's the culture. They feel that if it was at a period in time, that we worked through that, and they're very happy with what they see these days. I was very intrigued by what you said in the beginning about how the profession changed after the George Floyd killing. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that affects how you do your job now? Sure. Well, I think that transparency became a much bigger word, de-escalation.
Sure.
Even though that was being kicked around before, that became the expectation, and it should be.
Yeah.
You know, taking someone's life should be the absolute last resort to save your own life or someone else's life.
Absolutely.
And I think the expectations of the public became much higher, and we saw the frustration and the anger in the public through a lot of the demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
We also see a lot of people that jump on the bandwagon of a reason to go tear things up. And
Sure.
But what wasn't lost on me, and maybe it was even easier being a little bit on the outside then, watching it, was there's a tremendous amount of emotion.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of expectation being placed on law enforcement, and it's going to be different from that day forward, and it should be.
Yeah.
It should be.
Now, one of the reforms locally is that there's been a police review board, or how would you characterize it, established?
It's an oversight board, community oversight board on police practices.
Okay, and how is that going at this point?
Good. It's been put into place via ordinance in the city of Eureka. I was really thankful that I got here when I did, that I had some opportunity to work with the city manager and city government, city attorney to put that into place, because I had a lot of experience with that in San Diego, and I got to be a liaison to the board there for the 3.5 years I was executive chief. And so I had a lot of interaction with them. I saw really what worked and what might not work as well, and was able to have some input on that, so I appreciated that opportunity. I feel very strongly that we are not a legitimate profession without oversight.
Yeah.
And we need that oversight. And let's not forget for a minute that we're here to serve the people.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. We're here to serve the people. So we need to do it in a way that's professional, that's human, that treats people with dignity. And there are also responsibilities that our public has in interacting.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose sight of that. So I think this board is going to, coupled with the independent police auditor that the city manager has hired, I think between the entities, we're going to be able to fine-tune a few more things, and we're going to be able to really hear and report back to the community and provide transparency to the community through the board, maybe in a way they wouldn't get just talking to a police officer, and it's all going to be done within the confines of law and policy, and make sure that we're protecting the rights of everyone involved, including the police officers who have rights anytime
absolutely.
they're involved in a situation where there's allegations of misconduct. So it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to some of these meetings ramping up. I think the board is still trying to really figure out this new iteration of how it's going to work and what actually their objectives are and how much power they have, quite frankly. But it's going to be a good thing. I'm looking forward to working with them. I had a meeting today with the independent police auditor, and they are going to be good for the city.
Excellent. Two of the biggest issues that face our community, as I'm sure you know, are homelessness, and related to that, obliquely, is addiction. They kind of reinforce each other. I know that there were some challenges faced by the CSET team because resources are always an issue in a small department, and so I guess I'm asking about the future of programs like CSET and CSET itself to take a more sort of active and constructive role in helping people matriculate into programs and do things that help them rehabilitate. What's the future look like?
Fair question. First of all, I would like to make very clear that CSET, which is our community solutions
engagement team.
Thank you. Mine went blank. They're a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So they're not the end all. And for many, many years, law enforcement, because we are good at problem solving, became the problem solvers for all of the community's ills.
Yeah.
And it can't be that way.
Sure.
And I think the city of Eureka, another thing that really attracted me to this position is they do, as you mentioned earlier, take a very forward-thinking thought into this. They lean into it, and as recently as last month hired a clinician, mental health clinician, to be part of the team with CSET, to work with Uplift, to create that extra piece of the puzzle that we didn't have, and it's already been very, very effective. So ideally, law enforcement starts taking a little bit of a step back from dealing with some of those issues, and we're there to protect people and make sure everyone is safe through the process, but not really leading the charge. We did have to, early on when I got up here, we had to pull some specialized units back and put them in patrol, because the backbone of any police department is that patrol force that answers the 911 calls, and when you call 911, you deserve to have a well-trained police officer to your front door as quickly as we can get them there. So we pulled a few of those units back, but what we didn't do is pull CSET out.
Yeah.
And we'll keep that going. We have our mental health officer reassigned, and my next goal as our patrol staffing comes up is to get an Old Town officer again, and then a problem-oriented policing team that addresses some of the quality of life issues in the community. But to your question about the addiction and the homelessness, it's not unique to this community.
Sure.
It didn't happen overnight. We're not going to fix it overnight, but I see a lot of good things happening here, and I feel that we're on the right track. And if nobody has enough resources, but I do feel like the relationships with the county, the relationships with the non-governmental groups that we work with, the nonprofits, I think everybody's coming together, and they've done a good job of that up here. For whatever reason, we attract a lot of people here that are attracted to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And
the weather.
the weather. I was teaching a management class for new police lieutenants once or twice a month during my retirement, just to kind of stay in the game. And we were talking about homelessness, and a lieutenant from San Mateo County said one day, there's 3 categories of homelessness. There's the can-nots, the have-nots, and the will-nots.
Yeah.
So we as law enforcement are going to eventually just be dealing with the will-nots.
Yeah.
Who turn down services that are available, and the services will be for the other 2, the can-nots and the have-nots.
Yeah. Well, that's all our time for today. So I appreciate you coming down, and I'm sure we'll have you back on the show.
I hope so.
It's an open invitation, and I'll be reaching out, I'm sure, at some point in the near future.
Thanks, James.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
We'll be right back after the short break.
We're losing ground
on making Black America.
But at the same time, there is this explosion in Black institutional life.
The places.
Black women really were at the forefront in entrepreneurship.
And secret spaces.
Those queens were dressed to the nines.
That built Black life.
On the page, on the stage, we still make life swing.
Frederick Douglass was born into slavery.
I was a graduate from this peculiar institution with my diploma written on my back.
How did he escape?
Douglass, through and through, was a revolutionary.
And fight for change.
He commands your attention.
Don't miss his courageous journey.
If there is no struggle, there is no progress.
Becoming Frederick Douglass.
Native leaders and others from around the community gathered this past week at the Arcata Community Center to raise awareness around the high number of missing and murdered Native American women. Ryan Hutson has the story.
Summit on Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples, hosted by the Yurok Tribe this week. Federal, state, and local representatives met with tribal leaders to discuss policy about how to effectively address human trafficking and interjurisdictional functions, or lack thereof, impacting the MMIP problem, specifically in California. According to the Sovereign Bodies Institute, Yurok country in Humboldt and Del Norte counties had 36% of all MMIP cases in the state recently. Most of the time, Indigenous families are the only ones conducting a search for their missing loved one and lack resources that law enforcement could, but does not supply often or quickly enough.
We need our tribal partners, we need our state partners, we need our federal partners, as well as the nonprofit community to come together to solve the issues that plague our tribal nations. MMIP just doesn't happen overnight. This isn't an issue that sprung up in the last decade. This is an issue that's gone on for 150 years in our territory. We are not naive to think that we're going to solve it tomorrow, but the action does need to start tomorrow. I'm proud of my tribal leaders who stood with us today. I'm proud of our federal and state partners who showed up today in a time where the most important thing you can do in addressing tribal issues is to have your federal partners, your state partners show up. They showed up today, and our appreciation for them is felt.
Both Congressman Jared Huffman and Senate Majority Leader Mike McGuire acknowledged the importance of the summit.
As the federal representative in this conversation today, let me just tell you how humbled and honored I am to be in the room with so many great tribal leaders and partners who want to understand this problem better, and frankly, so many tribal members understand it too well, but they want to share their painful experiences with people like me so that together we can not only say this is enough, it has to stop, but we can understand very specifically what are the smart strategies and actions that we can take to make it stop. So that's what I am, I think, beginning to take away from today. It will not all happen from one conversation. This is going to need to be a work in progress. But what happened today hasn't happened before. And I really want to commend the Yurok Tribe for their vision and leadership in bringing so many tribal leaders from all over the state of California together in one room, together with partners in law enforcement and local government and every level of government and philanthropy. It's a fantastic start to a conversation that will lead to action and will lead to progress in justice and equity. And I'm pleased to be part of it. So thank you.
I firmly believe this is one of the most consequential convenings that Northern California has seen in decades. Together, we talked about how we are going to work as a team, local elected officials, state and federal officials, but most importantly, tribal leaders, to solve this crisis and forever end this injustice.
I spoke with the Honorable Judge Abby Abenanti about tribal police not having access to information when it's needed in an emergency.
And I'll use CLETS as an example. We have the ability to have law enforcement, but we were not given the authority to have access to the tools that they need to be effective. So for instance, if I want to issue restraining orders and put them into the system, local law enforcement officers don't have access to the federal system that we have access to. So what they do is they can pull up and they can see, oh yes, there's a restraining order, but it doesn't have any of the information about...
No parameters, no time frame.
Any of that.
Nothing.
So it's not effective. It's not. The problem is you're the officer out on the beat and you're trying to pull it up on your computer and it's not there. Those kinds of missteps are rampant throughout this area, meaning the area of jurisdiction, that kind of drop ball, or we forgot to think about them, or we didn't mean to, but that's what happened, or, any of that kind of stuff.
For Headline Humboldt, this is Ryan Hutson.
I'd like to thank the Chief and also Ryan for that great report. Stay tuned, stay informed.